Happy Tuesday, everybody. Again, Twitch today is going to be a little bit later because I'm coming back from my every semester lecturing gig at Sheridan College. But we will be doing Twitch. We will eventually. I will keep you posted via the Twitters and getting my light a bit better. There we go. This video may be demonetized. Irony of irony. So you know what's coming. Patreon. You should become a member. Patreon. Yes, because YouTube's ads are not my friend of late because the topics I cover. And it seems like we're getting a bit of remorse. Not self-aware remorse, but still, they are outraged about outrage. Among left-wing outlets. I hate that, like, left-wing outlets, like it's a bad thing. It shouldn't be a bad thing. I'm left-wing, but this stuff drives me crazy because if I do have a political alignment, it's probably fact-wing. If that's a thing. I don't think it's really a thing anymore. But the combined blows of two stories. There was a third one, but I decided this sort of made it and the video would be just way too long. Just shows how the social justiciness has gone too far, and now the same outlets that perpetuated that overblown non-social justice are now taking issue with the outcomes of that. Yep, it's gonna be good. We're gonna get into this, and it's gonna be very interesting. Let's start with the less gaming related one. We will start with a Guardian op-ed that was done on David Cameron's memoirs. I love it when someone publishes their memoirs. It just sounds so snooty. But if you read the article as it appears now, it will seem rather short. And you'll notice at the bottom, right before they ask you for money, it says, this editorial was amended on 15 September 2019. The original version of this editorial posted online fell far short of our standards. It has now been amended, and we apologize completely. What could possibly have fallen short of the Guardian's high moral standards? What is that dingy thing? I don't know. What could possibly have fallen short of the Guardian's high moral standards? Well, Mr. Cameron has known pain and failure in his life, but it has always been limited failure and privileged pain. The miseries of boarding school at 7 are entirely real and for some people emotionally crippling, but they come with an assurance that only important people can suffer this way. Even his experience of the NHS, which looked after his severely disabled son, has been that of the better functioning and better funded parts of the system. If you can't read the tweet here, that severely disabled son died at the age of 6. So the Guardian decided to play privilege politics with the death of a child and somehow take David Cameron to task for how he was educated and the strata at which he was born. This all seems like they were just looking for something to attack him on, and considering he's the guy that got the country into Brexit, you'd think there'd be easier targets. But they profusely apologize. But is this going to give the Guardian a greater awakening of, gee, maybe we've gone too far in our internal our internal discussions, our internal echo chamber, that we didn't realize this had gone too far in the first place? You'd think that soul searching would happen, but I'm not sure it did. Now, let's go over to the more gaming related one. This one, the David Cameron thing, just quite frankly made me sick. Like, I don't know how anybody does that regarding the death of a child. But this one both made me very frustrated for the streamers involved, but also highly amused by the irony of it all. This is from Kotaku. I can't frame it in a way that doesn't show a gigantic ad. Oh, irony of ironies. But here we go. Twitch suspends streamer after she wears Chun-Li cosplay. Updated. Now, the short version of this is that Twitch is succumbing to the outraged, and they have changed their terms of service to be extremely vague. We'll get to that in a bit. But a streamer, very attractive woman named Kuko, I believe that's how it's pronounced, was suspended from Twitch after she live streamed herself wearing cosplay of Chun-Li from Street Fighter, which, as you can see, covers more than even Simone Biles' gymnastics costumes. And looking at this, it's very possible she's even wearing tights underneath that costume. So Twitch totally jumped the gun on this one. This is inexcusable. It's a bag costume. It's a kinpao, a kipao, which has the higher thigh slits. The history of that garment is very interesting from a feminist perspective. It was worn by the more fashionable ladies in Hong Kong long after communism struck down the ability for women to wear feminine clothes in the mainland. It was all standardized and the worker garb in mainland China, while women in Hong Kong, the fashionable urban elites of Hong Kong, were able to wear a sort of Eastern garment inspired by the more exciting fashions of mainly Europe and America. Before they just sort of went, well, we're going to wear Western clothes. But many gamers of older vintages as myself, we grew up with characters like Chun-Li and Melina and Kitana, and we grew up quite well-adjusted and quite full of self-esteem. And, you know, a woman showing thigh was not considered a great insult to us, especially a woman as attractive as that. Like, look at her, she purty. I think she's awesome. But 3-day suspension for sexually suggestive content or activities. This is sexually suggestive in 2019, people. A freaking Chun-Li costume. Okay. She said, I actually bought one size up to ensure that the slit wasn't too high. The slit of this dress is cut lower than some runner shorts I own. And that looks true to me. It looked like it shifted there because of how she was sitting. But yeah. But here's what Twitch's vaguely written terms of service are now. Attire intended to be sexually suggestive and nudity are prohibitive. They recommend attire appropriate for public settings, such as what you would wear on a public street or to a mall or restaurant. Now, for the record, I have worn cosplays on the street and in malls or restaurants. Community standards in my province, in Ontario, allow women to go topless on public streets in non-sexually suggestive ways, meaning you're allowed basically to breastfeed, but even at Pride, the Pride Parade, there's toplessness all over the place. They basically they have very relaxed standards on the idea of what is considered a sexualized manner of toplessness. So, you know, we had web streaming content called The Naked News that was shooting on street corners because it's legal. The news readers weren't engaging in any sexualized activity. Therefore, so based on Twitch's community guidelines, what someone in my province would wear on a public street in summer is obviously very different than what we wear in winter. But we wear costumes on the street. We have caravana on a public street. We wear costumes to the mall. We wear costumes during Anime North and Fan Expo to restaurants. So according to the wording that Twitch has here, by the community standards where I live, what she wore was perfectly fine. So I'd like to know what street Twitch is referring to, because it's certainly not any street near where I live. And, malls, people wear, as the Twitch streamer said, people wear shorts that are far more revealing than that to malls all the time. Especially the cutoff jean shorts are back in style now. Yikes. There's some undermoon hanging out of those. Nobody does anything. It's just if you don't like it, you don't look. And that's the end of it. The same streamer was previously banned. Suspended, right? That's what they call it, for cosplaying a King of Fighters character. And she claims that she's being brigaded by, as Kotaku calls it, and this is when things get real fun, Kotaku calls it the self-appointed boob police. Kotaku has an entire article, yes, Kotaku, about harassers of women. See what I mean about the freaking ad? There we go. A whole article about Twitch streamers being trolled by people just looking to make sure that they're not violating the terms of service. Kotaku, the service, one of the services has been leading the charge against women being able to freely express femininity and sexuality in video games. I'm going to give you a moment to let that breathe. And this is why, like I said, there's kind of a moment happening here. Because Kotaku is not being self-aware about this. But the fact that even Kotaku writers now are going, this is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. But this is the end result of sex-negative discourse that shames women or depictions of women for sexuality. And people could argue, oh, but, it's male developers and the male gays and blah, 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 flippity blah. The thing is, if you watch TV shows like Lost Girl and like Killjoys that were created by women, might have been the same woman, I'm not sure. But both those shows are created by women. They're full of sex. They're full of sexy costumes. They're full of stuff like that. And so this sex negative form of extremely group identity feminism is completely out of step with what the actual functioning women's empowerment movement in media is doing. And this is extremely important. I know everybody rolls their eyes when we talk about anything involving video games being important. But when real people are having their freedom of speech suspended, and that is what this is. These streamers chose to wear these outfits. And, this particular streamer, she's not a quote unquote cam girl, she's just somebody who does art, who likes to cosplay. Twitch has shut down her freedom of expression basically because of an angry mob who has an issue with, it's not even boobs anymore. It's freaking thigh. What are they going to do? Go on a big tirade against the U.S. gymnastics team every time Simone Biles performs? I know I keep mentioning this, but my God, there have to be certain standards that are just okay because they're okay. And this does become a problem. I know, having done dance when I was younger and sports when I was even younger, that the self-consciousness surrounding nudity or partial nudity is something that's very hard for insecure young people to overcome. And I mean, one of the things you have to get used to when you're doing theater is quick changes. And sometimes you're changing, and especially, I remember this one thing, it was the competitions used to be done at U.S. high schools on weekends, and so we were basically changing in classrooms, and we only had 4 numbers to completely change costumes, and that's only 12 12 minutes. We only had 12 minutes to completely change costumes. And that takes a long time because by the time you're done a number, you're like sweating. And so that thing is stuck to you. And so we're peeling this stuff off, and other performers' dads are in the room. And we didn't have time to think about it. Nobody asked them to leave. Should we feel shame for that? No. And the amount of shame they're putting on these women and any women seeing this is a real problem. This is now jumped from their alleged argument that, it's just the fictionalized characters that are created by men for men's entertainment are the problem. Now we're actually shutting down and shaming real life women who choose to dress this way. And this is, I argue, a direct result. This is a predictable outcome in this sex negative era in gaming that we're currently experiencing, which is completely out of step with what's going on television, on cable television, in movies. There's a lot more sort of sex positive girl power going on in music. There's a lot more freedom of expression going on anywhere else but gaming. And this is a real issue regarding women's ability to make money. Because let's face it, a lot of the iconic nerd costumes for women tend to be of the sexier variety. I mean, one could argue that all superhero costumes are sexy. I mean, Batman and Superman and, characters like Spider-Man are in skin-tight spandex. You need a dance cup for those suckers. Boys, please wear a dance cup in those suckers. It's unpleasant when there isn't, support down there. But this is severely disadvantaging female streamers, because guys can emulate their heroes. Guys can dress up as characters and not get this grief. Women are having a particular problem. And apparently it's interesting because there have been discussions on, I don't remember if it's Twitch, might have been Twitch, about how women are given more rope than men are in terms of the way they dress on streams. This doesn't appear to be the case. Now it's apparently female streamers have said for a while that they're being brigaded, and there is some evidence. There's apparently a group called Livestream Fail. What service is this on? It's going to be real great reporting if it doesn't say what service Livestream Fail is in. It's just called Livestream Fail. But apparently there is a whole group devoted to just busting women for... it's a subreddit. Okay, there we go. It's on Reddit. So there's this subreddit called Livestream Fail that is just going around brigading female streamers who they think, violate modesty norms. And that's a real problem. But let me, as someone who's been in this position, you can't focus on the job you have to do if there's this entire subroutine running in your head about whether or not what you're wearing is appropriate. I have a hilarious story about presenting to a bunch of Mormons down in, Independence, Missouri. But presenting down there and being really worried that what I was wearing wasn't conservative enough. It really wasn't, but they were very polite about it as a short version. But, it's stressful. And I don't think in something fun like games, if guys are allowed to wear like skin tight spandex, then women should be too. Like, these women aren't wearing anything less than, a Robin cosplay from Batman would be with, the little green shorts. The Hulk, like, I don't think guys are shut down because they cosplay Robin or the Hulk. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is really, as much as I'm amused at Kotaku finally going, this isn't right, about something they contributed to, I'm very concerned, and I don't do that type of streaming content, so it doesn't affect me, but that doesn't mean I'm not really bothered by it. This isn't right. This is a suppression of someone's freedom of expression, plain and simple. There was no nudity. Thighs aren't nudity. This is 2019, not 1919. Give me a break. So I'm going to leave it there. Unbelievable. You couldn't make this stuff up, right? Yeah, right. Okay. Support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/JannaK, because this may get demonetized because of subject matter. Patreon. You should become a member. Patreon. Okay, thanks for watching.